is.
I'd like to say, just publicly, I'd like to thank the board for their support and the town administrator and everyone here. We've had a lot of support, and it wouldn't have happened without your support. And so I'm just thrilled to have this job. I love the work. I like the people. I like the town. And I'm just going to thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gene.
Chairman, Gene, credit to him as a tireless worker, as you know.
Oh, we all know that.
The car, when you see it,
car is still there.
It's not broken down.
I thought somebody abandoned the car.
I think he's very dedicated, and he's really done an outstanding job for us. If time permits, I'd like to just go through budgets 8, 9, and 10, which are the town administrator, the Board of Selectmen, and legal counsel. Caveat is that I've had a discussion with legal counsel. As you know from last year's expenses, our legal costs are up. I've asked counsel to come in. He's indicated he'd like to give you a litigation update. He does that twice a year. It's a good opportunity to come in, meet with the board in executive session, get an update on all the legal cases, understand what the town's risk is associated with each of those legal cases, and then ask any questions relative to the budget. As you can see on the legal, which is number 8, that we do divide our expenses between general legal costs, which service all of the municipal departments. We've established a protocol where anyone that utilizes the services of town council needs to request permission of the town administrator. That is followed strictly. Council will not respond to requests that come in from departments unless they follow the proper protocols. Council also is involved to a great extent in representing the town in labor cases that arise. We administer on the town side 6 labor agreements, and as is the case, there are oftentimes matters in dispute, questions of law that come up that require council to become involved. There are certain risks that council needs to assess and keep the town administrator, the board of selectmen, and other municipal departments aware of, and certainly those are monies that are well spent in terms of understanding what they are. So without delving too deeply into the legal budget, I would ask that you have an opportunity to discuss with council the cases. We'll come back and we can revisit it. You will note, though, that last year we did request a transfer in the legal budget. We did encounter an increase in our labor expenses. I would envision in 2009 we will also see a significant increase in our labor expenses, as you know from our monthly bills that come through. We have a number of labor cases that are out there right now that will be quite costly going forward in defending. And as I said, I think that's an opportunity for discussion with the council in executive session.
I'm fine with that. I think also gives us an opportunity to take a look at the number that we're budgeted, which is basically a reduction and then a reduction and another reduction, and it's probably not realistic. We already know we're going to go to the finance committee for a transfer this year, although we don't know what the number is at this point. Abby's looking at me saying, "No way, no way." Right. So maybe we need to take a look at that and try to make an estimate based on. We can't predict the future way out, but at least we know what is in the caseload, and we know that some of this stuff lingers for quite a while. On the other hand, we did have some expenses. Well, it was really 2008, which was all the Eisenhower, but we have contract negotiations coming up, guaranteed to cost us some additional labor.
We are very often in a defensive mode. In most instances, our legal costs are incurred in defending the town's position. It's fairly rare for the town to be out there aggressively litigating against individuals or businesses. It does happen on rare occasion, but most of the time we're reacting to some type of charge that's been filed against us. I just wanted you're aware of that, but I wanted also those who may be watching the public to be aware of the fact that 9 out of 10 times we're actions that are made in the best interest of the public that someone is aggrieved to, and they have a right to pursue. I'd like to combine, if you would permit, budgets number 9 and 10, which is the Town Administrator and Board of Selectmen. They are essentially the same department. We have a total of 3.2 FTEs. That consists of myself, who's full-time, my administrative assistant, who's Linda Hamill, who is also full-time. Linda is 20-plus year person in the job, and from those who have dealt with her, she's really done an outstanding job for the community, and I'm grateful for her services. We have Karen Marlin, who works as the secretary to the Board of Selectmen, or clerk to the board. She's here for 20 hours a week, and she handles, as you know, all of your licensing and permitting issues that come up. We have Leanne, who is our secretary, recording secretary, who's here in the evenings and does the minutes of the Board of Selectmen. And then lastly, we have a part-time human resources director who works directly for me as town administrator. She's a .7 position. At one time, that position was full-time prior to my arrival. It was cut back to half-time. Since that period of time, it's been restored. It would be, in an optimal situation, it would be important for the town to try to restore that to full-time. I think I've had discussions with the board in the prior 3 budgets that there's some risk to having a part-time human resources director. However, given the economic climate, this is not the time to do it, and we seem to have survived with the current staffing that we have, so we would not make any proposals to increase staffing in those departments going forward. I was trying to think of while everyone else is going through their budget presentations, I jotted down a few notes, and I think the town administrator office can really be summed up as we're wide, but we're thin. We're wide in the sense that we're involved in every facet of town government, and we are truly involved in everything that goes on. But we're very thin in terms of the fact that we're not necessarily involved in making all of those decisions. I cannot necessarily be involved in every decision that gets made. So my job is really to drive the process and drive the calendar and make sure that everyone is working toward a common goal of efficiency, cost-effective services, and that we're obeying the law at all times. So wide but thin is really an appropriate word for what we do in the office. The town administrator position is included in the town charter. It's identified as the hiring or appointing authority, which means I sign off on all personnel actions, whether they be hirings, promotions, demotions, suspensions, and disciplinary matters. I'm also involved as the town's collective bargaining agent, which means that I'm responsible for negotiation of 6 labor agreements. And we do that generally without the services of counsel. We do not have counsel present at the table, and I thank our unions who are cooperative in terms of allowing us to do that in the most cost-effective manner. The last negotiation cycle, we did utilize counsel on one contract, and coincidentally, it was the last contract that we settled, so I'm not sure what that means. But I'm also responsible for handling any and all labor disputes that do come up and do arise, and I'm the hearing officer on all grievances. So I don't want to minimize the amount of time that's spent on it. It's probably more than half of my time is spent on dealing with labor issues. Massachusetts law is quite explicit in terms of defining the role of labor in public sector employment. There are a number of appeal opportunities that are afforded to labor, so we need to be conscious of what the law provides for and enact in a manner that's consistent and in accordance with the existing collective bargaining agreements that we have in place. So I do spend quite a bit of time, and I try to impress upon the department heads that it's very important to adhere to the contract. There have been instances in the past that you know well that the town has not done so, and sometimes those are the root of some of the grievances that I mentioned before. Gestures of goodwill come back and bite you because they're considered to be a past practice. Past practice is something that's defined in law, and it is a subject of dispute that takes everyone's time and really is something that we try to avoid. I'm involved in the budget process, you know well, we're right in the middle of that, but not only the operating budget, but the capital budget, I need to put those together and make a recommendation. Prior to my arrival, we tried to do the operating budget and the capital budget both in the spring. In a best case scenario, that's something that's nice to do, but generally we don't have available funds until the fall when we get our free cash certified. So we successfully have migrated the capital budget with the assistance of the Finance Committee to the fall. I think it works out quite well. It gives frankly, the attention that's necessary to thoroughly review that budget at a separate budget cycle from the town. In addition to the statutory duties with my position, we also serve as parking clerk, so there are disputes that come up related to parking clerk. I'm the municipal hearings officer, so the police and fire departments are empowered to fine property owners in town for violation of the building and safety codes, and any appeals that come from that come to me. That's a recent phenomenon. It came out of the Station nightclub fire in Providence, Warwick, Rhode Island, where they discovered that there were some defective inspectional services, and so the state tightened up those laws and said that now cities and towns have to be vigilant about their safety inspections, and then those businesses who are grieved by those decisions have a right to report to the town administrator. And I only bring that up and illustrate it as a point. It kind of gives you an idea of how law progresses. And Selectman Delaney, I apologize, I know you're involved in this stuff every day, but laws things get passed with good intentions, and then they get put down to the lowest levels of government, which is local government, which is where the rubber hits the road. And we're a small organization, and oftentimes those hats that get worn by myself and other people in the departments. So, as I mentioned before, our role is really making sure that there's continuity of operations, making sure that we're all working toward the goals that are established by the town, and it's critical that we meet any and all calendar deadlines, which I trust is very important in this business, that we drive the calendar. So, I think in terms of the budget for the selectmen and the town administrator, we're not proposing any changes. You'll note that I've cut back on professional services, and your question will be what impact will that have on us for 2010. I do not anticipate that there'll be a major impact unless we need to fill a key management position that we have not envisioned. For example, when we hired our police chief and fire chief, we utilized the services of a professional assessment center. That was not an inexpensive process, and we were able to pay for that cost out of the professional services budget that exists. I do not envision that we have that need going forward. However, one will see. We also utilize that money, just in terms of a more recent thing, that some of the initial startup costs on the forestry plan, we originally signed some purchase orders to bring in the forester to begin some of that work in evaluating the town property. We've used it before for professional training for the Board of Selectmen and other departments, and so I would envision that what we will do is we will curtail and pull back on some of those items, and only do really what is absolutely necessary. So I do not envision that there'll be major salary implications, but we will continue to do the work of the town. We are truly independent. Sometimes feel like my office is an island because the only official that doesn't belong to some group, whether it's a labor organization or a non-union group, which all have groups of people that sit down and talk and strategize, and I get to sit down and talk and strategize with you, which is critical and important in our relationship. So it's quite unique in the sense that it's a good job, but you know, sometimes you're out there and you literally can be an island out there on your own. It's not bad, but I can tell you that North Reading is quite aggressive in terms of its labor issues.